Testing, testing, 1, 2, and 3. You always gotta go to 3. It's always 3, never 4. There it goes. Hi, how you guys doing? How is everybody? Oh, hold on. My chat just totally disappeared. Where'd it go? I can't see you. Oh no, this is a one-way street. Eh, Chat, come back. Come back, chat. Hold on. There it is. Hi. I can see you guys now. Okay, it's not just me screaming into a void anymore. The void talks back to me. For context, you guys are the void. Hello. How's it going? You're shaking because the live stream was so good? I have mixed feelings about this live stream actually. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about it. Like there's a lot to be excited about, but also I think I set myself up for disappointment. Yeah, exactly. Sad because no mini DURIN. No DURIN mentions. Although the idea of Albedo like burying bodies improperly on Dragonspine is really funny to me. It's just a trailer. I know it's just a trailer, but like, I don't know. We've got little mini dragons in the form of Kakuku and Ahau. And then Nouvelette's apparently going to get stabbed and treated by a vet. So that's a thing. But if we can have those little dragons, how come we can't have another little dragon? DURIN is going to be the summer event, clearly. That would be kind of weird because it was the last summer event. Oh boy, you guys are popping off right now, aren't you? What if we have human DURIN? I'd go for a human DURIN. That'd be fine. DURIN is little? No, little DURIN, as in like the one from Simulanka. Gonna absolve blame from... Oh god, you guys are going so fast. Hot damn, hold on. Oh, hold on. I'm worried how they're gonna absolve blame from Albedo because he's a playable character. Like, who did the murdering then? I mean, you guys know that like a lot of our characters have committed murder, right? Like, you know that, right? Am I gonna put it on slow mode? This is slow mode. You guys are on a 10 or 15 second cooldown. I forget which. Grave robbing is a thing. True, true. Is he burying bodies to reconstruct a human form of DURIN? Now that would be interesting. That would be quite interesting. That's also okay. It's there's a lot to go through, and I honestly don't really know where to start. There's so much. I'm probably going to ignore most of Nescafe's stuff, though, just so you know. What do you think about Dahlia? Could he be DURIN? Thank you for the super. I don't think so. For the sole purpose, for the sole reason being that Dahlia and Venti are friends. Apparently, where'd Dahlia go? There we go. I mean, I think that would be interesting if they made this into DURIN, but the thing is, like, Dahlia is mentioned in Rosaria's voice lines, like in her character profile. Like, Dahlia is her boss to a degree, and then being friends with like the humanification of DURIN, if Dahlia is DURIN, would have had to have taken place a long time ago. Is basically what I'm saying. Vampire vibes. I'm not sure if it's vampire so much as like I was getting more imp, but I could go for vampire, especially considering connection to Rosaria. Rosaria also has vampire vibes. Do you think Dahlia secretly knows that Venti is Barbados? I don't think we know enough about Dahlia to be able to say anything. That would be kind of funny, though. Is this Archon Quest 3.0? What? What? It's an interlude for 5.6. I am fascinated by the Hexen Circle stuff here, though. We'll get to the Pale... Guys, there's a lot to cover. We'll get to the Pale Star stuff. Don't worry. We'll get there. We'll get there. Let's just stick with Mondstadt for the time being. So speaking of Albedo and DURIN and like falsely accusing and stuff like that, it's very interesting to me that through this whole thing, Albedo's been accused of murder and improper disposal of bodies, apparently. But also, I feel like his solution to this is to get in touch with the Hexen Circle, which is really funny because that's kind of like Venti looking at Albedo and being like, I'm going to call your mom. Because Ryan, because Ryan Daughter's in the, yeah. I'm going to tell your mom what you did. But given that it's Alice who's showing up first, she's not the only one who's showing up, but in a Dodoko-shaped Alice here, given that we've got her, I'm looking at this going, this feels very much like Alice in Wonderland style. You guys ever heard of Alice chess? Have I talked to you guys about Alice chess before? It was based off of the sequel to Alice in Wonderland, the one where she goes through the looking glass and stuff. I was thinking about this, and I was also thinking, like, you know how in Alice in Wonderland, Alice gets put on trial in front of the Queen of Hearts, right? I know the Queen of Hearts doesn't seem like it has a whole lot to do with this, but if we've got a red queen and a red chess set, I'm just kind of looking at this going, maybe Albedo is getting put on a secondary trial up in front of the Hexen Circle. Like, the Hexen Circle has a means of figuring out what he did, or he has to pass some sort of, trial in order to get through. Or to prove his innocence, maybe. He doesn't seem too concerned, though. Albedo doesn't seem that distressed. So whatever he did it. Or at least he's ready to accept responsibility for it. A trial to get Alice's help? Yeah, I mean, it could be. Definitely could be. What part of the trailer surprised me? That they gave us a date for the moon stuff at the end. That surprised me. Thank you for the super chat, Spike Bebop. We'll come back to that. We'll come back to that. I was thinking, it looks like there's a few witches that are going to show up. It seems to me like, obviously Alice. We've got Alice for sure, but that's no one's gonna say Alice isn't present here. But this one makes sense if it's Barbelith to me. It's not quite the same big blue hat, but when you zoom into it, this feels like Mona. So I feel like this is supposed to be Barbelith talking through. Was it named as an interlude? I think so. I thought so. I'm pretty sure. This just feels like a Barbelith to me. Now, well, we'll come back to him too. I kind of want to skip ahead a little bit. I want to stick with the Hexen Circle stuff, so I want to skip through Fontaine because I'm not very much interested in the Fontaine stuff. Um, there it is. Yeah. Okay, you guys were saying this earlier, but yeah, it does definitely seem like they're gonna go to Alice, pass the trial to get some help. But again, like Albedo is so unconcerned by everything going on. So unconcerned. They're also very keen on breaking patterns, aren't they? Because like, didn't we for like a long time have an alternation between having a dragon and then a Fatui and then a dragon and Fatui, and it was like broken up kind of by A, sort of, because there wasn't an Electro Dragon, so she kind of took the place. Um, yeah, but now they've completely said, nope, no more patterns, no more patterns. We're done with patterns. Patterns aren't a thing anymore. You're gonna fight chess pieces. Unless A is the dragon. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. That's the thing. Yeah, I want to write that theory, but with what time? It's never gonna happen. It's never gonna happen at this rate. Guys, we're gonna talk about the Fatui and Nod Cry and everything at the end, okay? Or like after this. I want to go through the Mondstadt stuff first, and then we'll talk about the Fatui and the Pale Star and all that other kind of stuff. I admit that stuff interests me the least right now. I'm a little bored of it. I'll explain that why too. But am I gonna get Nescafe? No. She looks really boring. I'm sorry. But she does. That how did Albedo kill? We don't know. We don't even know who he's been accused of killing. For all we know, he may have been disposing of a body or, like somebody else said, grave robbing, right? And maybe they caught him doing it and assumed he killed somebody and found him guilty of it. Healer, buffer, and sub DPS is boring. I don't pull characters for their kits. I pull characters because I like them. I think Nescafe right now looks really boring as a character to me, so I don't want to spend on her. Especially when we've got characters like Skirk coming up. Like, I can't justify, you know, pulling a chef that cooks with ice. I might get hung up on really stupid things, and I do get hung up on really stupid things, but I cannot stand the fact that she's a chef that cooks with ice, because I swear to God, if you use a soup ladle made of ice in a hot soup, you will lower the temperature, and you're going to screw up your cooking time. It's going to drive me crazy. What about Aoife? Aoife is a 4-star, isn't he? You don't pull for 4 stars. You YOLO for them once or twice. I don't really care if she is going to end up being a support for Skirk. I really don't. I really don't. Really don't. Couldn't care less. Could not care less. I'm at the rock bottom of caring. Am I pulling for it? I'm not. I might YOLO for a copy of Aoife, but how I'm pronouncing Escoffier is killing you from the inside. I don't want to. I can't spell her name. Okay, when I have to sit down and write it, I can't spell her name, so she's just Nescafe for me until further notice. But you know, the fact that I play 3 games right now, um, I'm actively playing 3 games. Like doing end game for 3 games is ridiculous. I just stopped caring. I've just straight up stopped caring. What do you think about the Romaria stuff? Um, yeah. Anyway, yeah, so I just don't care about the meta, so I'm not pulling her for meta reasons. If they're fun and I like them, then sure. But until then, no. I wish they'd stop giving the shorter boys shorts. That's not why they're short. They're allowed to have pants. Anywho, I lost my train of thought. Thanks, guys. I wanted to talk about this some more. Now I can't because I don't remember what I was doing. I've been completely thrown off course. You know, I do wonder something. You know how the Gnosis are considered to be chess pieces, or they're at least described as looking like chess pieces, and then they were on like the Fatui chessboard and stuff. I think it's interesting that the Hexen Circle challenges you with a chess set, and that the chess set is leveraged in a lot of different ways, and not just as tools against the actual king and queen here. Also, the king actually does stuff. The king in chess isn't supposed to do anything. He's supposed to be kind of useless. I do wonder, though, did they say this? I don't remember if they said this or not. I remember if they said this or not. This is Alice's trial, but I was wondering if Alice may have based the king and queen here off of former Hexen Circle members. Do you think Varka and Alice are traveling together at the moment since they accidentally called Varka on the Dodoko device while trying to call Alice? That would be cool. I'd be down for that. I'd be down for that. Yeah, I definitely think that's Barbella's. The blue-hatted one. I can't imagine it being anybody else. Phase 1 locked to a chessboard. Phase 2 is freeform. Any chance Varka is related to Hyperborea? Listen, I know everyone's really excited about Hyperborea, but it's probably the least interesting aspect of this game to me right now. Honest to God, I'm actually quite bored by the idea. So I don't even really care if he would be. Could Varka be a cute anime? No, we heard his voice. I don't think he's gonna be a cute anime girl. What's Hyperborea? Oh, okay. So, hold on. Hold on. Okay, I'm gonna just... Okay. For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, in the Narts and Kreutz Institute quest, Renee and co talk about the world kind of operating through cycles, and that there are 4 different eras, so to speak. Hyperborea is one of those, and it is also presumably an ancient civilization that existed at some point in Tevat's past. If you guys are familiar with the hero that Child is named after, Ajax, like the original Ajax, not Child specifically, but the one that he's named after. Hyperborea is presumably the location that he visited at some point. It could be a bunch of different things here. Hold on. I'm losing my train of thought. What was I doing? I was doing something. You guys, oh, it is this set. Oh, okay. This set here, what we call the Skirk set, for those of you who can't remember for those who can't remember the name of it, there is a theory that I think is pretty credible that the Voyager, is it the Voyager? One of the Voyagers that met the Sealy down here. Yeah, this one. This boy here. There's a theory going around that this boy mentioned here, sorry, I had to find it, who went down and talked to the first angel, and then together they decided to rebel against heaven. There are people who are theorizing that this is Ajax, which would mean that this city that it's talking about is Hyperborea, which would make a lot of sense, and it would also tie in with oh yeah, they've got it mentioned here with Ballad of the Fjords, where Child's dad is telling him about the legend that he's named after and that kind of stuff. So that's Hyperborea. I'm a little, honestly, I'm a little bit bored by Nod Cry. I'm a little bit bored by Hyperborea right now. I honestly think a lot of it's just because Genshin was like, oh, wait, we haven't actually given you as much lore as you need to for us to tell the story that we want to tell now. So, we're just gonna throw everything at you all at once. Okay, bye! And I don't like that. So, yeah, there's that. So that's that. If anything, like, Hyperborea seems like it's probably a city from the last cycle, if you will. One of the capitals before a big disaster struck. My guess is that when they're talking about the root cycles in the Nartzenkreuz Institute questline, it's more about whatever the civilization was at before a giant extinction event or cataclysm happened. And in theory, I think we're supposed to be in the Kron Ira thing right now. Cycle, that one. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, that's a math formula. Yeah, it is. This is the golden ratio right there. Kind of an odd thing to have for a chef. I don't know how often I, as a cook, use that kind of math, but okay. You know, that's fine. Interesting, there's a descender in each cycle. Yeah. I think that's also by design, though, right? Because, like, how do legends go? Like, whenever there happens to be some sort of cataclysmic event that occurs, a hero will rise to face the darkness or whatever, something like that. And I don't think that's actually specific to Genshin. It's just like, that's one of the most common, that's one of the most, I don't know. They use that trope all the time in, like, basically every story ever. Oh, I missed this part. We went from light Alice to dark Alice. Somehow I missed that, the flip. That's cool. I like that. That's neat. Is Dahlia Hydro? Yep, seems it. Is it Blue Dodoko Barbella? Yeah, seems like it. It does seem that way. Okay, I've been ignoring you guys. I'm sorry. Sci-Fi, thank you for the super. Are you glad that Hoyu had their cup of Nescafe and can now cook epic stories? So much for a dead patch, Hexen Circle, and shenanigans. Yeah, I know. It's a little frustrating. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Just a little bit frustrating. My queue just keeps growing larger, and I think that's why I'm not that excited. I think I just have so much to work on that it's like I can't muster up excitement anymore. I'm just like, oh no. Why is Alice making us fight on a chessboard? Because she's playing Alice chess, obviously. It's a chess that makes no sense. You guys should really consider looking up this game. It's kind of trippy. I never ever want to play it ever. Ever, 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 ever. Is there a Dodoko for every member? So my guess is Dodoko's my guess is that she just uses puppets and other little things that she kind of like remotely controls. And I would have just assumed that this is something that, you know, many of the other witches will also do. And as you can see, Varka as well. Varka also does it. Do you think we'll get Kylo, or is just him fighting to protect Mondstadt? I want to say he might actually be Albedo's defense attorney. That would make sense to me. Because, so Albedo's standing trial. Is there a better shot of this that I've missed? I guess not. Albedo's standing trial. And you've got Kaya on one side, and you've got, what's her face? Is it Herta? Hertha? The one who does the commissions in Mondstadt? I forget her name. I would assume this would be the prosecution. Hertha. Yeah, Hertha. With an H. I think. I forget. But I would assume that Kaya would be the representative here. The defense attorney, if you will. I don't know if I would want Kaya as my defense attorney. But, like, it would make sense to me because, you know, they said that, didn't they say that Hertha is, like, she found evidence or something along those lines? Where did they say that? I think it's in this next section. Hertha was the one who found some evidence on it. Maybe Suspado did it. I think Dorian is dead. I'm pretty sure. Unlawful disposal of human remains. Yeah, Hertha. I was right. There we go. She has evidence against it. She'll be testifying against it. So I guess the question is Diluc the prosecutor? Is the prosecutor here? Because that would be kind of funny. That'd be super funny, actually. I'm the Juggernaut Glitch. Thank you for the 10 gifted. Yeah, I don't think they would bring up the, I don't think they would bring up an event from years ago for this. That'd be kind of wild. But it would seem that Dahlia and Jean might be working as judges here. Yeah. I don't know what Eula's deal is, though. Although I admit I'm interested that they went with Hertha instead of Rosaria. Just because, like, if you guys remember the Dragonspine quest originally, like, Rosaria was the one who was super suspicious of Albedo. It doesn't seem like a Susbeto fake out. Yeah, no, it doesn't. It definitely doesn't. It definitely doesn't. Rosaria is on the defense side, you think? Oh, that would be interesting. A real turnaround. If they mention the judge of Mondstadt, who is now with Varka? I'm not sure I understand the question. You kind of wondered if Susbeto was the body. I mean, it's possible. You know, what's actually possible, what I'm wondering is if Albedo has actually been transmuting humans or attempting to, just like his mom. And he's just burying the remains of the failures, like the ones that don't make it. That would be kind of fun. I wonder if that might be a bit too dark for a mainline quest though, because Genshin tends to try and keep it pretty light and airy when it comes to the like main storylines, but they go dark only in world quests, so I'm wondering if they would just not do that. He got caught burying Sucrose's bone collection. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know when they're gonna actually show us the Hexen Circle, but they better show it to us when we get to Nod Cry. We better at least get one witch when we get there. We need at least one. So Varka called Venti Barbados. Who else knows who he is? I mean, I would assume Varka would know, right? In general. Like maybe the higher ups do know. Maybe figuring out Venti's identity is part of the trial one needs to pass in order to become a grandmaster. So the whole thing in the very first Archon quest could have just been like Jean's trial. Hey, you got to figure out who our Archon is. Yeah, Jean knows, Diluc knows, I think Kaya knows. Or Kaya doesn't know, I think he suspects. I think it's just really Jean and Diluc, isn't it? Is it the whole squad? Why does he suspect? Has to do with a couple of events we had a while back, like one of the first Windbloom festivals. Kaya wrote some funny letters to Venti. Does Lisa know? I don't know. I know Barbara does not know. God, it's been forever since we've been to Mondstadt, hasn't it? I feel like I've forgotten so much stuff. Because we just don't come back here ever at all. Sorry, I'm reading the text down here. That's interesting. Greatness created in the moment where miracles met life. Neither mundane knowledge nor earthly compassion could hope to reach that light. The arrogant slither forth from the darkness, hypocrisy draped in virtue and reason. Their gnashing maws devour all, brothers and mothers alike. I wonder, brothers and mothers alike, I wonder if the brothers thing could potentially. You know what? You know what would be fun? What if you guys remember in Simulanka, right? How we were talking about I'm gonna make this about DURIN because I demand DURIN, okay? I demand DURIN. I want DURIN lore. Finish the Simulanka predictions. Okay. So the thing is, Wanderer was supposed to help Albedo with like the reviving of Durin or like the helping when Durin is supposed to come back or whatever. What I'm wondering is if Albedo is attempting to prevent Durin from coming back in a draconic abyssal form and instead is trying to make vessels for him. Wouldn't that be fun? I think that would be really fun. I think that would be super fun. Because if he keeps like trying and failing to build a. Okay, so I have to go like on a really long tangent, so I'm just gonna let this play in the background so there's something on screen. Um, Something that Hoyo really likes to play around with is like what is the soul and stuff, right? So if we're heading towards Hyperborea, and Hyperborea was first mentioned back during the Narcissus and Croyd's questline, like that whole thing was about that whole questline was about I lost my chat. Where'd it go? Come back. That whole questline was basically just about like what is the soul, what is the self, how do you differentiate between the two, you know, the memory, wish, persona, soul kind of thing. You guys remember that? You had to collect all the pieces of Renee, put them together. I'm wondering if one of the challenges for Albedo is to be figuring out like what is the difference between the self and the soul and the spirit and like do memories equate to soul and that kind of stuff because he wouldn't be because he could probably make a perfectly good human shaped vessel, but whether or not it could be an actual like container for a soul like a body remains to be seen. And it would be really cool that they brought Wanderer into Simulanka for that because that is essentially what A did, right? Like she created a vessel that eventually got a soul into it. So that would be really cool. I would be totally on board with that kind of thing if he's just like having a bunch of failed experiments. I don't know if this is true, but there's been a rumor going around since Simulanka that Durin's heart in Dragonspine, you know, that little space in there, his heartbeat is louder and faster than it was prior. I don't know if that's true because I don't remember what it was like before, but I saw some comparison videos. I just didn't watch them. I saw them floating around and I just never clicked on them. So I don't actually know how that worked out. Right, where does Wanderer's soul come from? That is the actual question, right? Like that's a good question. In Honkai Impact, I'm not trying to connect these games, but like just philosophically speaking. Otto tries many times to revive an old friend of his, like just to bring her back from the dead. And he can perfectly recreate her body. He can perfectly recreate all of her memories, but for some reason, that never results in her coming back. He can create perfect clones, but they're still not her, which I think is an interesting conundrum. Because I think, if I remember correctly, in the end, he comes to this conclusion that, like, the body has to call the soul to it or something like that. Like, you can't force the soul to enter a body. It kind of has to, like, do it on its own. I forget the actual, like, real conclusion that he had. But it was, like, the main point was, like, there was an uncontrollable variable that made him unable to find a soul and attach it to a body. Like, that had to be something that happened organically somehow. Yeah, Teresa is an example of that. Amber is an example of that. Not Genshin Amber. There is a clone that Otto makes of his dead friend, whose name's Amber. Like ZZZ's Silver Platoon. I think that one's a little different because they weren't trying to like recreate a real person. They were just trying to make super soldiers, and they're trying to make the most perfect super soldier. So that was a little bit more genetic engineering than it was necromancy. so to speak. Yeah, Kiana is an interesting one too because she was also a series of clones. Um, but she wasn't a series of clones of a dead person, which is like a totally different thing. Although there was an incident later, but that's neither here nor there. Thoughts on the chessboard? Also, Dahlia and Jean are both standing in for Seamus and Varka. Oh, true. That could be too. Right, I forgot about that. Because Seamus is he the bishop? Is that his rank? Something like that? So having a deacon stand in for a bishop makes sense, and then having the acting grandmaster stand in for the grandmaster also makes sense. My thoughts on the chessboard are and still will always be Alice chess. It's just straight up Alice chess, where it's just, we'll start by sort of playing by the rules of chess, but then afterwards, no, we're going to transport through the mirror into an alternate world portrayed on the chessboards. Yeah. Yeah. This chess is so weird because, like, you play on two boards, and then when you move your chess piece, you mirror it. You move it to a mirrored position on the alternate board. So every move, if I remember this correctly, every move is like, if you move up two spaces on board B, your piece automatically warps to the same position on board A. And then if you move up two spaces on board A, then your piece will automatically move to the same position on board B. So it's like friggin' confusing. I don't like it. I don't even play real chess. I can't. Playing pseudo chess, like just altered chess, is bizarre. How about the soul in Amphorius? Ah, that gets into a really long conversation I'm not ready to have yet. At 1 o'clock today, my time, so that's Eastern Standard Time, UTC -4. I'm putting out the I'm putting out a video about Amphorius and about dragons. And it relates to Star Rail, but I went down such a deep rabbit hole that I wrote a Genshin version of it because it still applies. And it does sort of start playing into the concept of soul and stuff, but I'm trying not to get too philosophical because it's driving me crazy. It's too complicated. Not even too complicated, but it's like, how do I put this? You know how, like, when you have an idea and it's like that idea is connected to every other single thing. So if you start talking about like how one idea connects to another idea, you have to connect it back to like 5 other things, and then it circles back to the main idea, but then it goes to another one, and then it circles through another 5 other things. And it's like this big web, like this big loop-de-loop over and over again. And you can basically loop forever. It's like that. I hate it. I hate it so much. Anyway. Does it involve Deshret? No, it doesn't. I mean, I guess, like, through association, technically, is it about him? No, it's about Nibelung. Do you think the Statue of Seven updates with each new Archon? No. I don't. All right. I think that's enough of that. I think I've said my piece about Albedo and Alice. I am most excited for Hex and Circle lore, though. I will say that. The witches are probably the one thing that interests me the most in this game right now. Now, the other interesting thing, we'll use this as to kind of like tie into the Nod Cry stuff, because I know you guys are chomping at the bit for all the moon lore and things like that. This is coming on April 30th. We've got 5 days until this drops, so that'll be fun. I can't get through 5 videos in 5 days, which is what my current queue is, but I'm gonna try. I'll fail, but I'll try. But okay, so I have been linking the witches to the moons for ages. For ages and ages and ages and ages. And I love the fact that now that we're getting Alice and all this kind of stuff, we have these loose connections between the Hexen Circle and the moons. I like that a lot. That is the part of that is the aspect of these updates that I think I appreciate and I'm looking forward to the most. I like it. I like that a lot. So, like, I'm not actually all that interested in Nod Cry exactly. I'm more just interested in moons and witches. Because I have a theory about the witches in general. Although I've kind of shared a lot of my thoughts on the witches so far. Do we do a live stream for the moon event? Depending on what they drop, yeah, we could do that. Ryan being an abyssal moon, no. See, like the thing is like, here's the reason I even brought this up. Okay, here's the thing. April 30th. That's when this is coming out, right? Here's the thing. This is also on April 30th. This is an event associated with witches. Right? So the fact that they're releasing moon lore on a witch holiday is like about as direct a connection as you can possibly get, really. You can't read all that text. Well, I'm sorry. I'm not responsible for reading this for you. Basically, this is a night where a bunch of witches gather and dance and celebrate stuff. If you're familiar with the story of Faust, it's mentioned quite prominently in there. But isn't this going to be Fatui related? Ah, isn't that interesting? No. No. I don't think so. Nod Cry is obviously going to be Fatui related. I would assume that the Fatui and Nod Cry and even the Sarisa to some extent will all be related to the moons because I think they may have similar goals or even similar origins to the Hexen Circle. But I mean, that doesn't mean the Fatui are witches, although that would be really funny. Also, D-Luke's birthday. I'm telling you, D-Luke is either the son of Nicole or something. I'm going to talk about the web event factions. There's nothing to say about the web event factions that hasn't already been said by other people. I don't really have anything to add. Senora is one, yep, but Senora isn't part of the Hexen Circle. You see? She doesn't like being called a witch. They called her a witch, like, as like an evil witch from a storybook. She's not like an official member of the Hexen Circle as far as anybody knows. But she could have the properties of a witch. Like, she could have the same sort of abilities that surpass the typical limits of people on Teyvat as far as power goes. So they could call her that for that reason, but... What about D-Luke's birthday? It's April 30th, I think. I'm pretty sure. Yep, April 30th. He was born on Walpurgis Night. Isn't Walpurgis not to drive witches away? I mean, yesn't. Yesn't. However, yeah. This is where's hold on. I wonder if there's yeah. I can't remember. Yeah, Faust takes this and turns it on his head. Yeah. So you can take it both ways. I think there's an argument to be made that Hoyo could just be taking it as like everyone's going to be channeling the witches. It's almost like a masquerade, right? Like anyone can participate. You just put on a mask and suddenly you're whoever you want to be kind of thing. But yeah, no, the in Faust, this is a witches celebration. But the traditional one, you're right, is about it's almost like it's basically Halloween in April. Because Halloween was all about dressing up as like little demons and goblins and stuff to kind of like, scare them away and whatnot, and the same can be said for Walpurgis Night. Springween. Springaween. Springaweenie. I think we should just stick with Halloween. German Halloween. Yeah, more or less. But witches are real. Well, yeah. Do you have opinions on It's Not a Real Tale, we swear, being the first thing to say about Nescafe? Whatever interest I had in her plummeted when they said it's not a real tale. So that's all I got. That's all I got with that one. Anyway, yeah. So I was also thinking about it in terms of like, are you guys familiar with you guys familiar with this thing? This thing is basically a bunny. And it's like featured prominently in basically every Hoyo game in some way, shape, or form, right? It's even in Genshin. It's if you look at the monster description or the monster archive for the unusual hilichurl, you'll find this Homu plushie there as well. I've been looking at this being like, hey, that's a rabbit. You know what else might be a rabbit? The Dodokos. And I'm just like, well, those could be moon rabbits, right? Like Dodokos could be a moon rabbit. I know that's like a very long tail and everything, but hear me out. We also have this rabbit. And we also have... Oh, come on. We also have this rabbit. And I can't help but notice how this rabbit's tail is a bit like the Dodoko's tail. So now I'm just like, hey, look at all these moon rabbits. Isn't that interesting? That's a puppy. That's not a puppy. That's a rabbit. That's a bunny. That is a bunny if I ever saw one. Also, bunnies are dragons. Thank you very much. Actually, so there's for those of you who aren't going to watch my Star Rail video, because I'm going to assume that not all of the people who play Genshin and who are in here right now also play Star Rail, but I'm going to mention this as we spin around to Dark Alice. Something I learned recently, but they're mammals. That doesn't have anything to do with anything. Something I learned recently is that the word eldritch means elf-like. And that got me thinking about the fact that eldritch is typically associated with eldritch horror. I know this is a board game, but like usually when we think about eldritch, it's usually in the terms of like horror and stuff like that. And it gets used a lot in Lovecraftian style mythos-y sorts of things. And we know right now that a lot of Lovecraftian stuff is associated with the abyss, right? So if eldritch means elf-like and also abyssal, we need to start thinking about all of these characters with long pointy ears, because Because that could also have a reference to bunnies because they have the long pointy ears. But I would also point out that in Hoyo versus games, the characters who have long pointy ears are usually draconic or dragon affiliated. Like, for example, just for example, the dragon race of the Vidyadhara in Star Rail is identified by their long pointy ears. That's like one of their primary characteristics. Right? Alicia is another good example of that. She is she's a mantis, basically, spliced with a Honkai beast, right? But she's also born of an eldritch abomination finality, like this big old crazy thing in the sky, right? So obviously she should have long ears. And actually, I know that Deliverance version of Kevin also has long ears in a draconic form. So if we start looking at things like that, it gets a little bit more interesting, right? Like when you have, is Layla a dragon? I mean, if you look at Layla and Chaska, it could explain a few things about their lineage. You know what I mean? Like Layla is called the Wisdom Seelie, or at least she's possessed by the Wisdom Seelie, which does make you wonder if she has in her lineage some kind of Seelie. Because when we talk about Klee, right? Klee is a child of summer and born of a long-lived race, a long-lived species. She's got the long pointy ears. Is it possible that she could have been descended from such things? Could she have that kind of lineage? Because even like the human shape of Nouvelette, right? Like he's got pointy ears. They're not the same long pointy ones that we see on some of the others, in fairness. But he still has pointy ears. Which should mean that we should be side-eyeing Dahlia a little bit. Because he also has pointy ears. I don't know if you guys noticed. They're not long and pointy, but they're pointy. Kind of makes sense with Vivian as well, does it? Does it make sense with Vivian? You know what? Don't answer that with Vivian, because I haven't played the Zenless patch yet. I'm playing that later today, so don't spoil me. I don't want to know. Don't tell me. So Alice is draconic too. That's kind of what I'm saying, though. That's kind of what I'm saying. Nahida too. Yes, Nahida is a good example of that. Yansan has pointy ears. Yes, Yansan could also be an example of that. I have been ignoring chat. I'm sorry. Anyway, it's something to think of. Oh God, I was really ignoring chat. I'm sorry. But yeah. So I learned that recently, and it's got me side-eyeing a lot of stuff going on in the game, and you'll understand why I started side-eyeing it. Either after you watch the Star Rail Theory video I'm putting out, or after you watch the Genshin version of it that I haven't made yet. I'll get to it. I'll get to it. Anyway, Jonathan Byerstan, thank you for the super. You're in class right now and can't stay, but you're so hyped for mondstadt and Risley content. Yeah, I mean he's earned some content. I think he's earned a vacation. He's been underwater for way too long. He needs some sunlight. Needs some of that vitamin D. Devil Child Mike 4, thank you for the super. Ivanovna First Mayor, Nod Cry Witchy Trust. I believe you. In fact, I do, like, one of the reasons I was looking at these chess pieces with the king and the queen and stuff, and there's two reasons actually, is because in the, I was wondering about, this kind of thing. I was wondering if Alice was perhaps recreating, you know, something about one of her friends. Because they always have these big glorious send-offs when they send their friends off to get married if they decide to do that, because they end up leaving the coven at the same time. So I was wondering if that might be it. Jay would be a pretty good candidate for this. That'd be fascinating. Cryo's Gold, thank you for the super. A theory, the first angel was split into 3 parts, body, soul, and memories. Those parts went to different places, body to earth, soul to ocean, and memory to wind. They're the Saritsa, Paimon, and Venti. That would be interesting. How would you justify the first angel's memories being completely wiped with that theory? I'm curious. Also, wouldn't that mean that at some point you'd have to fuse Paimon, Venti, and the Saritsa together to recreate someone again? That would be kind of wild. I don't know if I'd like that fusion. I think they'd drive me nuts. Raihan Hashim, thank you for the super. What about Natlan's statue? If it didn't update with the new Archon, why is it a lady? Shibalonke is not a lady. Because I think the statues show the last Archon that there will ever be. I don't think that they show the first. I don't think they show the current. I think they show the last. But I can't prove that. We can't prove anything right now. So, you know. Phase and Masher, considering Helio's love for Norse mythology, do you think they'll work the dichotomy of light and dark elves into this? Yesn't. Where was I reading about what the actual difference between a light and a dark elf was? I don't even remember where I was reading that. Dark elves could be Conrians. Yeah, that could be. It could be. Could be. I think it's more like... You know how there are angels and demons? But technically demons are angels that have just fallen. I think it would be a bit more like that. Like if you have a light elf and a dark elf, light elves would be angels, dark elves would be demons, but they're technically the same thing. It's just a matter of location, I guess, for lack of a better term. Does the king and queen bosses partially reference the Saritsa and their lover or something? I don't know. It could. It could. When I saw the king for the first time, my first thought was actually... There's no autocorrect here. My first thought was actually this, because I was thinking about this guy. There's not, I won't say there's like a ton of similarity here. There's not really. He doesn't even have a beard, but he was the first thing I thought of. Mostly just because, probably just because of the crown. It's not even the same crown. But he was the first thing I thought of. Did I see the Fatui post? Yeah, I mean, they put it on YouTube too. It's right here. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but too much of a coincidence that the chessboard boss of all elements is using Pyro and Hydro, the two sovereigns that we're basing on. No, it also uses Electro. Uses Electro, Pyro, and Hydro so far, and it's weak to Ice. Do you think the Seelie race has elf ears? Yes, I do. That was kind of where I was going with the whole thing, actually. That is where I was going with it. Anyway. Angels, did you miss some important Genshin lore? Did you play through Natlan? Because they confirmed that Seelies are angels. So any mention of a Seelie is a mention of an angel, which is why Archons are called demon gods. They are demons, which technically would make them Seelies as well. So, I mean, take it grain of salt. But that's no moon. Correct, it is not. That is a Death Star. I don't know. It just, machinery. Mostly just machinery. Oh, I see. They put Song of the Welcome Moon down there at the bottom, so they're going to tell us more about this later. Yeah, so... Okay. I didn't see that little bit before. I see why you guys were saying that now. That makes sense. So if we've got Song of the Welcome Moon, we've got the Pale Star Edict, we've got Song of the Welcome Moon here with the Fatui and everything, then this just kind of furthers the idea that the Tsaritsa might be connected to the Frost Moon Scions, no? Yes? But Nahida is a Seelie? I mean, she might be. Are Seelies dragons? In my opinions, yes. Can we confirm that? No. However, you guys are going to learn what my main theory is here in a minute. So, how do I explain this? So I think it's in here. Is it? Yeah. Okay. So, in the finale of the Deep Galleries artifact set, I thought it was interesting here that this Voyager, right, not only cast her mind into the world inside of a shell, but she walked among chordate animals, which is what humans are, to be fair. And then she proceeded to look around and stuff, right? Now, here's the thing. What if Nibelung is a big cosmic dragon that we might call something like, I don't know, a Leviathan? Because Leviathans are dragons. Unless it's my dog. That one's just a dog. Levi's just a dog. He's not a dragon, I don't think. Be a very cuddly dragon. So let's assume for a minute that Nibelung is a big cosmic dragon and that he ruled the world at one point in time. You kind of have to make this assumption here. If he's a Leviathan, because Leviathans are dragons, and I'm using that term specifically because of Star Rail, but you'll understand why in a second. The thing is the word Leviathan comes from the same root word in Hebrew for whale. So let's think of Nibelung as a giant cosmic whale. Now, what would happen if a giant cosmic whale died in the middle of space? Would they create a scenario something akin to a whale fall? Where their body slowly starts to decompose and becomes the seedbed for new life to sprout? Because that is actually pretty accurate. No, listen, guys, my dog's name is Leviathan. That's why I was making the joke. I call him Levi, but his full name is Leviathan. Anyway, So anyway, so like, what if we assume that Tevat is actually a world made up of Nibelung's body? Like, Nibelung himself is technically the world itself. Okay? They would be a dragon experiencing whalefall, which I find interesting because among the whalefalls are these specialized ecosystems, which include chordate animals, which includes humans and fish and sharks and tigers, obviously lots of different types of things, but also, mollusks. Now, I mention mollusks because we keep talking about shells, and we keep thinking of them as eggshells, but what if they're not eggshells, but seashells? And I say seashells because most of the big dragons, especially the sovereign, well, most of the dragon's sovereigns, at least, are based off of sea slugs, which are, in fact, mollusks. So, I'm thinking that this might be an actual thing that is occurring, if only because it fits with a lot of other patterns that Hoyo is placing out across several of their games through multiple different storylines. Now, I know people are going to go, oh, well, Nibelung went to the Abyss and then he came back and then he went... Well, here's the thing. A giant cosmic whale that becomes a seedbed for the creation of all life, right? If they're making things out of themselves, then it is reasonable to assume that there are parts of themselves that they would attribute to just themselves, right? Like there would be parts of themselves left over that they would still like be able to possess or whatever. So they could basically reimagine their own form and have it cast into the world as a thing, which would mean that like the longer time goes on and the more that Nibelung goes through this act of creation, the less of him remains and the more life starts to flourish until he just vanishes entirely. So I mean the primordial sea is his blood? It could be. It could be a sense of like the primordial sea could be his blood. Phlogiston could be like what's left of his brain since it contains knowledge. It gets a little odd because you're dealing with giant cosmic almost near godlike entities. If that's the case, how the whole world cycle works, I don't know what that question means. Irminsul would be the backbone where the nervous system goes up and piles up in the head. Yeah, like a brainstem. Yep. But didn't the lore of the new set of Natlan mention that one unknown entity watching the planet saw Nibelung on the planet and offered them to leave the planet or something like that? Yes, because he would have made whalefall on a planet. Do you see? When a whale dies, it sinks to the bottom of the ocean and creates a little mini ecosystem, and it becomes a seedbed for life. So, if you had a giant cosmic dragon floating through space that made landfall on, an asteroid somewhere, or some kind of planetoid, and it just decided to stay there for a while, maybe it got lonely. Maybe it started its process of creation, started kickstarting things. You know what I mean? So is the ocean the abyss? I would say the ocean is space. It's a sea of starry skies. That kind of stuff. So the firmament is Nibelung whalefall. It would be his bones. I don't know what the main inspiration for the Cryo Archon is. I have done zero research on the Cryo Archon because, like I said, Nod Cry does not really interest me that much. I know other people are really excited for it, and I'm gonna just direct them to some other things because I'm I'm just not interested in it yet. There's nothing that Hoyu has presented about Nod Cry, apart from witches and moon stuff, that I find interesting yet. Because, like, here, hold on. Where's the web event, actually? I was gonna... Okay, so I don't know where I don't know where the link to the web event is, so I'm not going to open it right now. But here's the thing. All except for like two or three factions, I think, are factions that we've encountered before. They're factions we've been theorizing about for literally years, right? So the uniqueness of what is in Nod Cry doesn't feel as special as the convergence of a bunch of different factions that we've already met before. You know what I mean? But that doesn't feel like Nod Cry to me. I don't know. Like, when we were going to Fontaine, just as an example, Fontaine was exciting because it was Fontaine, right? Like, I wasn't going there with the intention of being like, oh, I'm going to learn about XYZ. It's just like, oh my God, there's a whole new thing to learn about. Like, it's going to be all new things. But Nod Cry, and this isn't really the fault of the region, but Nod Cry thus far, in my opinion, is not something I'm excited for because it's Nod Cry. I'm mostly excited about the loose ends from other places that are getting tied up in Nod Cry. Does that make sense? So, as of right now, Hoyo hasn't shown me anything to be excited about for Nod Cry specifically. Everything in there so far is something we've encountered somewhere else. And so it is hard for me to muster up the interest to research specific things about it right now. But this is also like another problem I have with like the last 2 years of Genshin. Well, the last year and a half really of Genshin. They've basically realized, oh hey, we forgot to like tell you about like how X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, E, all those things work. You know? So now we have to do it all at once. So we're just going to give you everything all at once. Here's everything. Here's everything. Like, it's just, it's not, to a degree, it's like, you ever have choice paralysis where you walk into the store and there's like 15 types of orange juice and you're just like, I have no idea what orange juice to get because there are 15 types. But if you walked into a store and there were like 2 types, you wouldn't have that kind of issue because there's only 2. And you could just 50-50 it at that point, you know? That's kind of how I feel about the recent approach to the lore delivery for Genshin. And I think it makes it difficult to really want to go into depth on any one thing. It's not even that there's nothing to theorize about. It's like when you theorize about something, especially if you're going to be putting in a lot of effort into it, like if you're going to really go as deep as you possibly can, like you want your theory to have some kind of longevity to it. It doesn't mean you have to be right. You just want it to be able to kind of like float in that state of limbo for long enough for it to feel satisfying, right? But what happens when you make a theory and then a week later, you know, they just give you all the answers to it? It doesn't matter if you're right or wrong in that case. It's just like they just gave you everything 1 week later. Okay, then. Doesn't this just mean we're coming close to the end? Yes, and that's also, I think, kind of part of the problem, I think. Um, that's that's a discussion. That's a different discussion, though. I don't know that I really want to go into that one. That's a long that's a long one. What kind of crossover do you think is good for Genshin with other Hoyoverse games? I don't like crossovers in general. So you'll never see me suggesting we should have crossovers in any game. I just don't like them. Like my Arlecchino theory, which one? I made like 4. You have zero problems with anything Genshin's released this year. I think it's more CC problems that I don't even understand. It's not so much that. Like on the one hand, yes, there are some problems with it that are very specific to my exact situation with creating video essays on it. But even from a player standpoint, I don't like the way the Abyss was handled in Natlan. Not because of any of the information that we got was bad or anything. I don't think that at all. It's just more like I feel like they sort of drip fed us for years, like 1 or 2 drops of information per year, and then all of a sudden said, "Here, have a whole bucket." And I'm not the biggest fan of that kind of thing. Because, like, when it comes to storytelling and sort of like revealing information, like, you kind of need to ramp up. You don't just go drip, 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 dump. You go drip, 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 spilling a little bit, and then dumping, right? Like, you kind of build up to it. I just don't feel like the build up's there and they just kind of dump everything all at once and you're just like, oh, okay, well now there's like a billion more things to sift through and cover and sort out and now we've got to go back and rewrite XYZ. Like it's just there's not enough time to process what needs to be processed. And I feel like it's kind of lazy and it annoys me. Which region did it best for you? That's the thing. I don't think any of them did it particularly well. All of them were drip regions. That's the thing. Like, here's an example. Just taking Irminsul as an example. Irminsul and how it works is something that you really should have needed to know before you went to Inazuma. Because so much of Inazuma, at least with A's second story quest in particular, there's a lot about Inazuma that doesn't make sense without understanding Irminsul at least a little bit. But they don't even mention Irminsul until you get to Sumeru, which doesn't happen until after Inazuma. The only way you're going to know anything even remotely close to it is if you read like a lot of the, you know, superfluous side content. That's kind of the thing I'm talking about. Like I feel with Natlan, we should have known more about the Abyss a long time ago. Even if it was like misinformation or it was misdirection or if it wasn't even like a whole lot more. We should have had a lot more before we got to Natlan, in my opinion. The dragon stuff I kind of get getting dumped all at once. That one did feel like it was more of a buildup because we went from here's a maybe a dragon sovereign to here's a dragon sovereign with beef with an archon to there's an island with no dragon sovereign, here's another dragon sovereign with more beef that gives us more lore, and then hey, here's a dragon sovereign that's actually going to be a human and rule a whole nation, and now we're going to a nation. Like I get that part was fine. That part was fine. But the fact that it took us like it's taking us 5 years to point out that the moons are important is kind of, you know, that one's a bit, I don't know. I don't know. It rubs me the wrong way. And it's not even like the content, it's just the handling of it, the pacing of it, the presentation of it. Like that's the part that gets me. So like that's one of the reasons I'm not super excited for Nod Cry, but it's not really the fault of Nod Cry. I'm sure that once they start doing trailers and stuff for it, where there's like Nod Cry specific stuff that's not just tying into everything else that we've already seen before, then I'll have more interest in it. But like as of right now, I'm less interested in it. The other thing too, I think, some of the stuff that they're revealing is stuff that I already knew or theorized about. And so when they create the faction, like the Wild Hunt faction, I'm just like, well, yeah, obviously, I don't have anything to say about this because, like, we've been talking about Ermin and Odin and the Wild Hunt and the souls of the dead leading the charge against heaven and stuff like that for ages. Like, I don't have anything new to add there. Like, what do I do here? It's just, it's just confirmation. So anyway, I am interested in the Frostmoon Scions, though. I do think that's an interesting thing. Um, I'm just not sure that I have anything to add that hasn't already been said by someone else at this point. You feel like they realized too late that they couldn't rely on all players reading side material. They had been lacking in setting up core elements to the forefront proper. Yeah, it's something more like that. Which again does make it a very specific problem for a very specific subset of players, right? Um, do I not feel satisfied that I was right, or did it just take too long to confirm that it feels so tepid at that point? I don't care if I'm right about things or not. I don't know if that shocks anybody, but I honestly don't care if I'm right about things. The thing is, I am a much bigger fan of ideas being interesting or theories being interesting than theories being correct. Does that make sense? Because here's the thing. If I think I think it's a very dangerous slope to go down if your primary concern is just being right, you know? Like, I'll give you an example. I'm still fairly confident about a theory I have in Star Rail about Amphorius being related to this one specific event in you know the galactic history or whatever. But then I was like, oh well, I think there's the third path that's involved in this is the path of the Enigmata, and then it's just been revealed that the third path involved is the path of destruction. Now, I don't necessarily think that that's a problem. I'm not mad that I'm wrong about the path involved. Because either way, the idea that I had was still very satisfying to me and very fun. And I actually kind of think destruction's a little bit of a boring route to go, but I can make it interesting. I'm trying to. Um, but even then, like it doesn't. There's still a lot to be gleaned from going down the route that you find most interesting. Because the thing I realized was that the way that I thought destruction ended up playing into that plot line, actually did tie into the original path I was looking at with the Enigmata. So it's hard to be mad about things. Like if I just sat there and I tried to deny everything that ever happened, that would be very bad, don't you think? You were so disappointed it was destruction. I might change your mind on it being disappointing. in a couple hours or in an hour. We'll see. We'll see. Like writing fan fiction as opposed to arguing about what's canon or not. Yeah. I think that's a actually decent way to put it. Like say, hey, I don't like what happened in canon. What if we look down this path and you write like your own thing to kind of like satisfy that urge? Yeah, like I guess you could kind of think of it that way. A lot of theorizing to a degree is like that though. Like you're making informed guesses at what might happen, but you don't actually know what the developers want to do. You know? Don't fall for the swindle, beware false. Okay, listen. No, you know what? You'll understand why I'm not deterred by it in about an hour. Do I have any theories on the Snowland Fae? No. Like I said, I've had a hard time getting into anything in the Nod Cry thing, and also I've been extremely distracted. This is one thing that I know is going to become a problem. Some of you know that I recently covered a chapter for Wuthering Waves, and I'm making no promises on anything that I'm doing in the future because doing lore for 3 games is a bitch. Okay, it's an absolute bitch, especially when you have someone like Starrail coming out and putting out like 10-hour quests every 6 weeks. That's like 10 hours of content I have to go through multiple times to write anything meaningful for. Now you multiply that by 3, that is 30 hours of content. Well, let's just say 30 hours of content that I have to go over multiple times to make anything meaningful. Like there's so much to go through, right? And I admit I've been neglecting Genshin the last patch because like I still haven't finished writing my Ochkanatlan stuff. I still have, well, I need to update it for Toland because I wrote the Ochkanatlan recap stuff and then never finished it before the volcano quests came out. So I still have to do all of that. Like my head is still in Natlan because, I mean, I still haven't done the Beginner's Guide to Fontaine. Right? Like I am that far behind where I want to be right now. And a lot of that is because I'm covering 3 games. I know you mostly see 2 games on my channel because I haven't been making a lot of Zenless content. But the reason I haven't been making a lot of Zenless content is exactly that reason. Is because it's just really hard. Do I think I'm going to stop covering one of those 3 games? Yes. I'm going to have to drop a game. That's really what it's going to come down to, is I'm going to have to drop a game. I can't do 3. I can't. It's not happening. It's not happening. The thing is like, I want to see Genshin through to the end. There's a lot to take. There's a lot to go through, I think. Don't drop Z. Okay, so of Hoyo versus games, Zenless is my favorite. Zenless is if I had to pick only one game of Hoyo's to play, it would be Zenless. That would be like my one game. Like I need you to understand that just because I'm not making content for it doesn't necessarily mean that I don't enjoy it or that I'm planning to drop it. It's more like right now Zenless kind of feels like a game I play for fun, just for me. So sometimes thinking of it in terms of trying to make content for it feels a bit I kind of feel like I want to keep it to myself sometimes. I think Genshin would rank 2nd and Starwell would rank 3rd. Ranking Starwell 3rd mostly because I don't think combat is fun in Starwell. They haven't done much to keep combat being fun. And they are showing 0 improvement as far as making their story presentation better. That is not to say their story itself isn't good. I think the story that they're telling is good. I just think that 8 to 10 hours of questing where someone tells me the same thing 5 times within the span of that same hour is a little ridiculous. And they're not showing any sign that they're going to stop doing that or, try to improve it in any way. And that is something I find frustrating. So right now, Um, yeah. When I try, my last video was a woo-wah video. I just did a podcast with Braxophone on the latest chapter of Wuthering Waves. Now, I did that at the request of Wuthering Waves. I don't know that I'll keep going on it. What I will say is I greatly appreciate the fact that Wuthering Waves has made incredible progress and improvements to their story, characters, and exploration mechanics. That is something I will, you know, I give them full credit for. They deserve praise for that. Um, I I feel like I hate Rover. That's my biggest problem with Wuthering Waves is I hate Rover. I really do. I think they're one of the worst aspects of that whole game. And they are fishtailed into every single part of it. I hate Rover more than haters hate Paimon. Like, for real. I hate them that much. So, it is hard for me sometimes to swallow some of Wuthering Waves' content because it's so Rover-centric. And I don't just mean that as in, like, the story is following Rover's adventure. I don't mean it that way. I mean it as in, oh, Rover, marry me, please, kind of thing. It's so bad in that respect. Now, the story they're trying to tell this time around is actually pretty decent. Their presentation has also been pretty good. And it hasn't been, 15 hours to get through the whole thing. So, credit where it's due. I hate Rover. Renacita's been good. But it's one of those things where you just have to kind of find a game that kind of clicks with you. For me, I would say Zenless and Genshin are the two that really click for me. Star Rail is a game that should click for me, but I feel like they're kind of stumbling right now. And we'll see how Wuthering Waves goes. The issue I have with covering Wuthering Waves is not only that I want to reduce my workload, not increase it, but finding time for another open world game, like, really? Really? I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know. 3.2 felt like a slog on HSR. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying. Oh, so not to get super off topic, but like I just wanted you guys to understand why I'm like a little off of Nod Cry. Like my head is still in Natlan. Okay, it is still in Natlan, and it's gonna be in Natlan until I finish writing about Natlan, which should hopefully happen after I finish the Volcano of Tulin write-up. I finished the quest, okay? I did do the quest. I need to write it down. It's just finding time for that. It's been really hard. Can't you cover a different type of game that would be Wild Elden Ring? I'm not really a Dark Souls kind of player, though, is the thing. And I don't know that you can really go beyond Vadividya. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how you compete with that. That would be crazy. No, that's not really what I would do. How did I like the Talon quest? The Talon quest was good. I quite liked it. It's actually part of the reason why I'm pushing the Whalefall Nibelung theory. But that won't make sense yet, probably. Surprise metaphor video. No. The thing is, guys, like, one thing you guys really have to understand is I didn't start content creation because I really wanted to be a content creator. I got here on accident. You guys found one video of mine. I was just like, oh, people really like this. Well, I have more opinions I can share. I'll just make a couple more. And then I made a couple more. And then I made a couple more. And then I made a couple more. And now I'm here. I don't intend to do this forever. So, like, I'm not looking for new games to cover. because I intend to retire in like 2 years when this chapter of Genshin should theoretically end. I'm gonna keep reminding you guys of that. 3.2 HSR story recap when? Blah, 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 blah. 1, 2, 3, 4. May 5th, I think. That's what my calendar says. Uh. How about streams for fun? Yeah, I might do streams for fun. Um, but yeah, like I've seen some concept art for upcoming WUA regions, and they look really good. So like the I think there's like there's a lot of great games out there and stuff like that. It's just like trying to find a good balance is hard. And right now I'm struggling. I'm struggling to find that balance. So I do apologize for the lack of Nod Cry stuff. I know Aru Haseki has been covering Nod Cry and Shinashnaya stuff pretty regularly on his channel. So if you want more stuff like that, I strongly recommend you check out some of his videos. He's been having a lot of fun with it. Hopefully I catch up soon. I think 5.6 will be a good time to do that. Mm. Who else is covering Nod Cry? I'm just trying to think. I feel like most of the stuff I've seen about Nod Cry has been written, not videoed. I never mentioned My Name for Now. Yeah, because My Name for Now uses a lot of leaked content, and he doesn't warn people about it. So I cannot in good conscience recommend them. That is not to say that his content isn't good. It's just, I think you should warn people. How about less theory speculation? How do I feel about Escoffier? Escoffier? I guess is that how you're supposed to say her name? I think she's quite boring. I'm not intrigued. DeWitt was coming. Oh, yeah, DeWitt was doing some stuff. That's true. I did see that. But she's British? Yeah. And? And? Have I seen any of Allegory's Amphorius videos? The name is not familiar to me. I only know of like maybe 4 different creators that cover Star Rail. Not counting me and Minsleaf. Not counting those 2. Like like dedicated lore. Because I know like Cat and Blue Hat covers multiple games. They just rarely do theory content, although they do some sometime. So I'm not counting them. Am I friends with Minsleaf? I don't think I've ever talked to Minsleaf, actually. I feel like we have orbits that are like just barely missing each other. Like we keep getting recruited to go on certain like collaboration events, but then like she'll not be at the one that I'm at, and then maybe I won't be able to make something, but then she ends up filling in or something like that. It's actually kind of funny. I don't think I've ever yeah. I'm pretty bad about remembering to get in touch with people. Laughing Man. Has Laughing Man done any Not Cry stuff? I don't even know. What do I think Dahlia's gonna be like? I don't know. I think it would be funny if he had a really, really, really dry sense of humor, but was actually more unhinged than Venti. That would be fun. Is Dahlia a girl? No, I think Dahlia is a guy. Unhinged how? Well, like, Venti's a little bit of a chaotic menace. So I think it would be funny if Dahlia was worse. I have a feeling that Dahlia will end up being like the adult in the room, so to speak. But would I rate this live stream out of 10? 7.5. Yeah, 7.5. Oh, Laughing Man does good stuff. Guys, I was literally thinking about who has released Nod Cry specific content recently, not just like who's releasing any content or whatever theorists you want to recommend. I mean, you're welcome to recommend whoever you want, but I was just trying to think of like who's actually doing Nod Cry stuff right now. No DURIN out of 10. Yeah, exactly. I'm taking off 2 points for no DURIN. I demand DURIN. What my live stream's rated? Oh god, my live stream is rated an apple out of 15. I'm not even gonna give it a number. I just wanted to see Simulanka finish. You know what I mean? So far we have almost everything in Simulanka complete as far as like the Natlan region storyline overall version arc goes, right? Like we almost have everything. The only thing left is the new moon rising over the Hexen Circle from the Lighthouse side quest, if you guys remember that. And then DURIN. Those are the only two things left. So it looks like we're going to get more moon stuff, which is, again, the moon rising in Simulanka. So, you know, that's coming. But there's no DURIN! Yeah! I want DURIN. I'm going to hold on for the next 2 weeks to the possibility that Albedo is being charged for murder because he's trying to create a new body for his brother. For 2 weeks, I'm going to hold on to that idea. We'll see how far it goes. Those hilichurls were infected with DURIN's aura? Well, they were glowing red, you're right. Haven't we seen the red glow, though, before, or have we? Saving DURIN for Dainsleif quest. You know, at this rate, Dainsleif is gonna have to be the Mare Javari quest. You know? I think that might be what he does. Ah, yeah, in the chasm, you're right, yeah. Okay. There was some stuff in the chasm. No, there wasn't. No, that was still purple. There wasn't red in the chasm, was there? I don't remember. No, but okay, listen. We're going into 5.6. If we've got 5.6, we have like a main event and an interlude, but it is not a Dainsleif interlude. Which means we're either not getting Dainsleif in 5.x, or we're going to get Dainsleif in 5.7, right? We'd have to get Dainsleif in 5.7 because 5.7 is going to have to be an explorable region, which means 5.7 is going to have to be Mare Javari, because that's the only region in Natlan left. So having Dane be in Mare Javari would make sense if he shows up at all. because they're not going to put him in 5.8 because 5.8 is like 90% chance at being the pre-Snezhnaya, pre-Nod Cry event, summer event, right? Dane's never an inter. Oh, that's true. He's not an interlude. They're in the Traveler chapter. I forgot those were different. Okay, you're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. The interludes are like Inversion of Genesis and then the one with Shenhe. The one I can't remember the name for that one. Those were interludes, yeah? Kari Bear 2 is in Sumeru. Yeah, it was. That's true. But I was just thinking, because like Natlan still has one region that we have to go to, or like one area that we have to go to left before we move on to Snezhnaya, right? Because like we still haven't finished leveling the Statue of Seven. We still haven't finished the what's the wheel with all the sigils in it. And we haven't done all that kind of stuff, right? So there has to be one explorable region left, and the only thing left is Merijavari. Tona, yeah, Tablet Tona, that one, yeah. But yeah, so like that has to be 5.7, and that means Dane also has to be 5.7, whether he's in Merijavari or not, because he's not going to be in 5.8. I don't think they'll do a 5.9. You're surprised that we didn't see anything related to Dragonspine in the trailer, despite seeing it in the version art behind Albedo? Yeah, that's probably because he was disposing of bodies and stuff on Dragonspine. That's kind of why the whole DURIN thing came up to begin with. Mondstadt Dorman Port when? When we go to Snezhnaya! Probably. I don't know. We haven't had a Mondstadt expansion in ages. Deflect the no flying objects law is plot relevant again is sending me. I know. That's awesome. I still think it's funny that they want to get Neuvillette treated by a vet. That's friggin' hilarious. That's so funny, man. Not since Dragonspine? Yeah, not since Dragonspine. Yeah, I think Dragonspine was the first and only expansion for Mondstadt. Those were good times, man. That was like way back in 1.2. I remember how people were saying like, oh man, Inazuma in version 1.3? I don't know if you guys were around for that. Wonder what the story is behind this law. Isn't it in Farina's character profile? Something about balloons? With the free Ayaka. Oh, yeah. People were convinced the game would be over in 4.0. Oh, yeah, I remember that. What about the star fragment in Natlan? Did it catch your attention? I mean, yeah. Also the fact that it only seems to react to cryo. That's also odd, don't you think? I'm just not really sure what to do with it. You find Siggy not being the medic for Neuvillette funny? Yeah, that's true. Oh, maybe she will. Maybe she will. Does that technically... Okay, here's a question. If you have a non-human medic who practices medicine on humans, are they technically a vet? Would they? Because if humans practice medicine on other species, they are veterinarians. But if they practice medicine on their own species, then they're doctors. But what if Si Juin is actually a vet? Because she's not human, but she's practicing medicine on a different species. Does that mean my emotional support animals would be veterinarians to a degree? Like like animal psychologists? All doctors are veterinarians because humans are animals. That's a good point. That is a good point. If every doctor is a vet, then they shouldn't be able to charge me these prices because vets are so much cheaper. Do half human, half animals in Teyvat go to vets or doctors? Another excellent question. Is Dodori a vet? No, because he's a PhD student. He's got a doctorate. A little different. That's funny. All right. Well, I don't know that I have anything else right now. I'm excited for Hex and Circle stuff. I'm excited for mondstadt stuff. I'm a little less intrigued by the Fontanian event. But maybe there'll be something interesting in there. Maybe we'll learn a little bit more about dragons. There's going to be 3 of them in one place for once. Although, now that I think about it, this will be the first time that Nuvolette gets to meet a Saurian. Because didn't he say that the dragons of Natlan would probably, like, not respond well to him or, like, not like him or something like that? Back at the end of the Fontaine Archon quest. And now 2 of them are going to come and say hi. Hmm. I haven't Oh, I do? Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, Razorclaw. Thank you for the super. Do you think Hoyo is scared of massive lore drops due to Amphorius's bad launch with the story and its length? How do I say this nicely? Hoyoverse takes the wrong lessons away from feedback a lot of the time. Because the issue wasn't the lore, right? The issue was the presentation of the lore. People thought it was too long. Not that it had too much in it, but that it was too long. And those are 2 different things, right? You can have a lot happen in a short amount of time. You can convey a lot of information with a very small amount of words. So in my opinion, they took the wrong lesson away from that. Also, Aglaya just wasn't that popular. The thing is, like, they made a couple of mistakes with Amphorius and that kind of stuff, and I don't really think it has anything to do with the lore. I don't think they're afraid of the lore. I think they just realized that the amount that they gave us was not the correct amount, and they're trying to sort of backfill all of the stuff that they should have been giving us, and that's kind of leading to a bit of a disjointed um a bit of a disjointed experience, but um, I think in the case of Amphorius specifically, it was because Aglaya is not popular. A lot of people who should have liked her just didn't end up liking her as a character, which was fair enough because, like, at that point, she hadn't actually gone through much development yet. I think people have a more rounded opinion on her now. But the bigger problem is that the people who spend, who would have made that number go up, are people who play the meta. And at that point in time, Aglaya's best team was a very expensive team. A very expensive team. And she was also, like, the first character in a new weapon class, like, altogether. And I think people didn't really know where that class was going. And I still don't think they know where it's going. So I think it's just not a good match all the way around. So I don't necessarily think that the whole lore versus bad sales versus poor launch had much to do with each other, if that makes sense. How on Tevat Nouvellette got stabbed makes you wonder who she got stabbed by. You know what? What if Nouvellette got stabbed by a How? That would be really funny. I'm going to hold that as my head canon for the next 2 weeks. Because the real answer might be less interesting. But if a How ended up stabbing Nouvellette accidentally, that would be so funny. That would be so funny. Aglaya isn't popular? No, she did not sell well at all. At all. She sold very badly. I think the Herda, who was on the banner like immediately after her, sold like 4 or 5 times what Aglaya did. Something like to that extent. It was kind of absurd. Razorclaw, thanks again for the super. Do you think that the lore people at Hoyo think they have a story so epic like Lord of the Rings and they can't figure out how to do it? Yeah. Yes, and I don't necessarily think that they think they have some crazy epic story, but there definitely is a sense that some of the writers want you to acknowledge that they're being clever. That was especially apparent on Penacony, right? There would just be these moments where like something would happen in the story and it would feel like the writers were patting themselves on the back for just being clever. You know what I mean? Um, I think there is some of that going on. Like I think there's times when the writers are a bit too proud of themselves. So the thing is like you have to have humility in your plot lines and in your presentation. So it is a little bit of a shouty problem. Yeah, you're right. But they think they're cooking, but it's an easy bake oven. Okay, so here's my thing. Here's my thing. All right. When I'm looking at a story and I'm trying to figure out what parts I liked about it, what I didn't like about it, or why it didn't hit with me, or why it did, or that kind of stuff, I break it down into a few different pieces. The first part is the actual story itself, which is like if I boiled this story down to just like its main story beats, like just the main bullet points. How well do those bullet points hit? Do they make sense? Do they flow well? Are they cool on their own? And if they are, then it has a good story. And then I look at, well, how was the actual writing? How was the text? How did the characters sound, right? Like, how long did it take them to convey different ideas across? Like, were there funny moments? Like, I think about those kinds of things, right? That's when I will say, was the writing good? I think oftentimes Hoyo has really good stories and terrible writing. Right? I think that is where I see them stumble a lot. I would also say that some of their writers really love build-up, but don't like giving any payoff. Or they give very little payoff for a lot of build-up, you know? Interestingly, I actually think Wuthering Waves has the exact opposite problem where they give way too much payoff to the point where you actually don't feel like you've earned it because they have no build-up. Or like very little build-up. It's just like payoff, little build-up. They have the exact opposite problems, and I find that really funny. But yeah, that's kind of where I land on that. The world building is excellent, but the actual story isn't to the same level. Yeah, that falls under a whole different category where I call lore, because you can have a story that is good, lore that is terrible, and writing that is passable. Those are 3 different things. And you have to have at least 2 of those things be good for the overall experience to be worth it or to be like enjoyable, in my opinion. Whole lot of edging in Genshin. Yeah, it's a lot of edging. I'll let you take that however you want it. Sci-fi, thank you for the super. Why is the king chess piece giving penguin vibes? Penguin vibes. That's a new one. Maybe because he's got really short legs and he's hopping around. Maybe. I didn't quite get penguin vibes, but I get it. I understand where you're coming from. Unless you mean the penguin, as in the Batman's penguin, because that would be even funnier. And maybe it's a cross between like a sort of, not really a tuxedo, but kind of a tuxedo. And the tiny legs. Very tiny legs. Razorclaw, thanks again for the super. I much prefer doing the flame chase journey and then having you tell me the backstory to Amphorius. Well, that's comforting. That's like job security. Fontaine could have married the lore and story so well. I would have shilled for years, but ultimately we got another teaser to lore. That is one other problem that Genshin specifically has is like most of their best writing and some of their more complex stories are in the world quests and not in the Archon quests. So like oftentimes the enjoyability of Genshin doesn't even come from like these main quests that they put out. Which, you know, it's like a whole nother thing. A whole nother thing. But will they ever follow up about the Dark Sea? The Dark Sea is probably what comes after Conria, if you ask me. Because, like, it's... The Dark Sea just talks about everything that is not Teyvat. Anything that is outside of Teyvat is the Dark Sea. All of it. So, if we leave Teyvat after Conria, or even during Conria, then that's when we'll get to the Dark Sea, I think. The title of the patch, Paralogism. Indeed. I did see someone write something about this, but I can't take any credit for it. It looks like it was a reference to Kant. Is that what I saw? I can't take credit for this, though. Yeah. This one. It looks like this was what they were referencing, the Critique of Pure Reason by Kant, Immanuel Kant. Yeah. Which I think is funny, because Rene Descartes is here. I'm never going to let that pun die. It's too funny. It's way too funny. I actually haven't read any Kant. So this is on my list of something to read up on because I have not read any of it. How did I pronounce that? How did I pronounce what? Descartes. Oh. Jibby. It's because it's Rene Descartes. But you have to remember, in the Narzizenkreuz, we had Rene and Carter. So Rene Descartes. Get it? Get it? Anyway. If you're critiquing my pronunciation, I will show you I will show you me speaking in Chinese in a pure American accent that I'm sure makes the ears of native speakers bleed. Also, I will also gesture towards Nescafe over here. If you think I'm going to pronounce her name correctly ever again, I won't. So anyway. I'm not gonna do it. French does not deserve my respect. I don't have anything against the French. It's just funny. Anyway, I don't think I have anything else to add. And we have a video premiering here in about 20 minutes. So I might sign off. Unless anyone has anything that they want to ask that I haven't talked about yet. The Nod Cry poster? You mean this one? I know. I saw it. I saw it. We talked about it a little bit. What's my favorite part about the recent event? What recent event? You mean like the recent events in Genshin? Because I've hated all of them. In fact, I think one of them I didn't even play. I just ignored it. Kakuku versus a How, who wins? Canonically, Kakuku. Did you guys not see? Did you guys see this? Ah! That's so loud. Kakuku wrecks a How. It's really funny.
Why does no one ask for the autograph of the almighty Dragon Lord, Kahula How? Oh, wow.
What do I think the big machine is? That is Mechamoosh 2.0. I'm just kidding. When I see, okay, first off, you guys outnumber me 1,500 to 1. I can't answer every question. I'm gonna miss some. It's just gonna happen. What if it's an artificial moon? It could be. It looks a bit more like, it looks a bit more like a floating island of sorts. Or a spaceship. Kind of looks like a spaceship. You guys remember when the Fontaine Institute for, you remember? I'm drawing a blank on the rest of the name. But they were doing like all the anti-gravity research so they could figure out how to like lift Fontaine up into the sky so the floodwaters couldn't reach him. Kinetic, yeah, okay. It was kinetic energy and engineering or something like that, right? Yeah. The Vomito and Age of Calamity. No, this reads flying saucer to me. It just seems a lot like the anti-gravity thing from what do we call that thing? I don't remember. No. I don't remember the name of it. The Charlotte boss? Yeah. Oh, this is this is Xiao's passive. That's not what I wanted. Yeah, the world boss. The hell's the name of it? I don't... Is it the field generator? Oh, I guess it is. Yeah, this thing. That's what it looks like. Right? Doesn't it? Doesn't it bear some resemblance? I'm not saying they're one-to-one. I'm just saying that, like, keep in mind, we've got Sandrone, or Sandrone, or Sandrone. Marianne. We've got Marianne at Mariannette in the Fatui working on something on her lonesome, and then you've also got Dottore working on something in Nod Cry or whatever. There's a good chance that this technology, to an extent at least, gets repurposed. You know? Again, not a one-to-one. It just has the same vibes. So I could very easily see this Fatui one being an advanced version of this. Because the whole point about this prototype on the right was that it was an attempt to find a way to raise all of Fontaine up into the sky. Which to me seems like it would be a pretty good foundation for a spaceship. Or a flying airship of sorts. Kind of like the Tatarasuna thingy. I mean, yeah, but that was a Dottore project too, remember? So you got both Dottore and Marionette. Who are they fighting with that? Probably space monsters. I am excited to get new Fatui though. It looks like we're gonna get like an electro double-fisted gunner type thing, and then got another guy, another big old cryo dude. New pyro guy with a huge ass sword. It does look like it opens though, to make something a little bit bigger. Anyway. It looks like Karkata. Yeah, I see where you're getting that. It's just like if you look over here, you can see a little ladder, and then you can see railings where people would walk inside to work on stuff. So I'm looking at it a little bit of like a spaceshipy type of thingy. The middle is Yoon Lee and armor converter. Yeah. Yeah. You hope the Genshin plot leads to war? I mean, it might. I'm sure it will eventually. We'll have to go to war against the Abyss for real, because, like, Natlan didn't win the whole war. They just won that battle that they'd been fighting for thousands of years. Did I see the Genshin launcher mistake before the live stream? The moon fragments scattered everywhere. In the middle, there was a moon. Yeah, I did see a screenshot of that. I'm not quite sure what to make of it other than it looks like all of the moons died. And that maybe we've just been, over the last month, watching each one explode. So that's fun. What screenshot? I don't know what you would Google for this, but you know, like when you open this launcher, the Hoyo Play launcher down here, and there's like a little slider. There's like a little slider down here on the left. I don't think it's still here. I think they removed it. Yeah, they did. They removed it. But there was an image here about the moon update, and it was a new image. They updated it too early. No HI3 on my computer, no. I have it on my phone. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, is Ether a Stellaron? I think maybe. Maybe. I think it's possible. You'll see. You'll see why. Okay, I don't have anything else to say. I got nothing. I got nothing. That's it. That is all I've got. Except Anax's thing was actually really good. I liked his trailer. It was very good. You tabbed back to it and it was cached for a second. All right. Well, I'll see. Okay, if you guys watch Star Rail, you'll probably see me in the premiere of my video here in about 10 minutes. If not, then I will see you later. It's gonna be a while before I get to my next Genshin video. Unfortunately, I do apologize for that. But we'll have a stream on the 5th when the moons drop. That much I'll promise. I think we should do a stream for the 5th. Yeah. I'll wear a witch hat and anything and everything. Not that anyone will be able to tell, but you know. Anyway, thank you all for coming out. Thanks for chilling with me. I hope this was fun. I'll see you later. Bye.